Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my process for completing my project life pages for August of 2025, at least the first part of August. I did part 1 and part 2 all in one sitting, but what you'll be seeing in this video is the first page, which covers pretty much all of August except for August 30th. There will be a 2-page spread that you're seeing me prep for right now by placing the photos in various cells in my Design A page protector templates. There will also be in this video an insert that goes between these 2 pages that I will also be scrapbooking in a fairly simple way, not too elaborate, not too much interaction in the insert. And then in the second video, which will be entitled Project Life Process Part 2, August 2025, that video will include basically August 30th of 2025, which is the day that our daughter moved away for university. So it will show that entire journey of us packing up our car, traveling to the university, and releasing her out into the world. So that process will be in the next video that's uploaded to my channel. So as you can see, I'm starting this the way I always start. If you've watched some of my videos, you know that I usually start by deciding which photos will live where in my project. And at this point, I'm not sure that I have decided that the move to St. FX will be on its own page or not. That's just a timer I use to remind myself to check in with the Discord server, because whenever I create these pages, I am usually live streaming with my tiaras over on Patreon. So that's always fun. I have a number of different Ali Edwards kits here. These are Stories by the Month kits. And I keep them in this little tray that you saw. It's not really a tray. It's more of a little plastic trolley that scoots under my table when I'm not using it. So I just wanted to show where I keep that, but I'm pulling out the August kit. This is the August Ali Edwards Stories by the Month kit. I'm trying using this washi tape to hold my my chipboard pieces in place for the kit, but by the end of this scrapbooking session, it's going to become clear that I don't actually like doing it that way. They end up popping out anyway, so I'm going to keep them a different way, but I thought I would give that a try to see if it holds them in place. So now that I have a photo for everything, a place for all of my photos, I'm noticing that this is pretty chock full of photos, and I'm going to have to be using quite a few interactive elements in order to make this page not look quite so overwhelming. I want to have a couple of filler cards and just places for your eye to rest and not have to take in quite so many things all at once. So this is my template that I use for my insert. So as I go through, there were a few photos that I put aside that I was pretty sure would go into the insert. And I'm not sure that I had an idea for how to do that other than just the extra photos. So it wasn't necessarily everything goes on these main pages and then this one day went on the insert. It was more just things that didn't fit would go on the insert. It's all from August. It's all from various parts of August. And there's really no rhyme or reason to which things were included where in this. Within the month, I don't usually scrapbook chronologically unless if it's, the first half of the month and the second half of the month. Sometimes I do 2 layouts per month. And if that's the case, then, the first is generally the 1st to the 15th, and then the second half is usually the 16th to the end of the month. But within each spread, I don't make sure that, the first of the month is on pocket number 1 and the second of the month is on pocket number 2 or anything like that. That's just too fiddly. It takes away from the joy of the progress of the project when I do it that way. So I just stick it all wherever it fits, and that's fine. So as you can see, I have so many photos here that it really is taking me a while to really figure out how to space this out. I basically wanted to pull some of the photos over to the insert, which you see a brown template over there to the left. And that gives me a couple of extra spaces. And I've already pulled out all of the photos of our trip to St. FX, and that I've already decided that will go on its entirely separate spread. So I have a variety of cards here, and I'm really in love with the color scheme. You can see the comments there in the corner. Those are just people chatting, and sometimes it's hard for me to read their comments, so I just put them up on the screen so it's easier for me to see, and also so that anybody who's watching the real-time video as an archived video instead of watching it live, they get to see what I was talking about because they'll hear me actually commenting on these comments, so it's nice for them to see them on the screen when they rewatch. So I have an idea for this bottom right-hand corner 6x4-inch photo, the one that I have my hand on right now with the poppies and then 3 Animal Crossing photos. So you'll see that come together, and it's actually quite a unique little idea. So make sure you watch to I guess it's the midpoint because it's at the end of this layout that I do that. But then I also did the insert after that, which is included in this video that you're watching right now. So for any of these ones that I intend to have be flips, I am putting some cards along with it so that I have a sense of what will go along with those flips. So that's the process here. I'm basically taking a look at what photos I have and what cards I have to support those photos in terms of storytelling or just designs that might go alongside the photos. I have one filler card already picked out, which is what's the best that could happen. And then I have that journaling card below it that has a rainbow blocked design with some room for some journaling underneath. I just added this beautiful glorious mess card, which will also be another filler card for me. So nice places for your eyes to rest and just take a little break as you kind of move your eyes around the layout. Now I'm going to start with this August card, which is basically 2 4x6 cards from the Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. And they're both vellum. So one is the bars of color, and then layered on top of it, I'm putting the August in gold foil. And that just gives me a nice little title for this spread. And then I'm also going to use an Ellie Studio stamp set to stamp the word, or I guess the date, 2025, the year. And I just stamped that on a little piece of scrap paper, and then I will cut it out so that I can staple it onto the word August. So we'll cut it down with my trimmer. That just helps me make it nice and straight. You could easily use scissors to cut this down because it's just a plain rectangle, right? I'm going to put it off center a little bit. So I'm just going to attach it to the leg of the G, or the tail, I guess, of the G. Now, right beside that is another 4x6 photo. This is one of my cat, and this space on my jeans, she was just laying against me there, and she's not a very cuddly cat. So whenever she lays against me, I do like to take her picture just as proof that she was cuddling. And I have this Cozy Home stamp set from Ali Edwards. It's from an old stories kit that was called Cozy. And I'm just grabbing 2 stamps from that set. One is a house, and I'm going to stamp them with some Stampin' Up! Ink. I wasn't sure where this other stamp came from. That wasn't the one I meant to grab, actually. I grabbed the wrong one. So I had to put that one back and take the other one. So one is a house, and I'm using Misty Moonlight ink from Stampin' Up! And I'm going to stamp the house first because it's just a homey kind of a day in my living room. I think there's Animal Crossing on the screen. Yeah, it's Animal Crossing on the screen. And then the other stamp says around here with some little slashes on either side of it. So I like how that just provides a little bit of an extra element on the photo, just a little bit of decor. We'll put that up beside the title card. And then we're moving right along to grab. I like to just kind of keep on seeing how it looks as it comes together at all the different phases. These 2 cards felt like they went together. They have similar designs here with different colors. And so I'm going to scrap them together, but I am going to separate them by putting a card in between them so it doesn't look too repetitive in a row. but it'll give a little bit of balance to one another. One of these, they're not related at all in topic, but one of them includes some collectible mugs that we have from different places around the world that we either visited or people have given to us. We used to host international students, so we've had a number of students bring these mugs, coincidentally, without knowing that we collect them. They seem to be a popular gift item, so that worked out well. So I have the two of the photos. I was going to make one of them have the design be upside down, but I liked the look of the repetition of keeping the designs the same orientation. So I have these two cards. I'm going to do journaling in the bottom parts of each of them, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm actually not going to do any more embellishing on these. They seem kind of busy just as they are. So this journaling says, after our trip to Germany, our You Are Here coffee mug collection has grown. The other journaling says, I've been taking urban sketching classes, in quotation, with Sketching Scotty on Patreon. Practice, practice. This next photo is a 4x6 of Scott and Liv at a Wanderers game. I believe this is a game they went to without me. The two of them went. And I have these puffy stickers that have random things on them. I think they're a Kelly Perky set, and one of the things is a ticket. So I thought that worked well. I also have a set of die cuts also from Paper Person, so I think they might have come from the same kit. I'm not entirely sure, along with those stars. So I'm just going to use one of the labels there to give a title to this, and then I'm going to add the little sticker. So there we go. That's enough for this one. I'm going to just staple the label in place, even though it's actually glued down, and that one finds its home right in the bottom left-hand corner. So let's put some of these things away. I might dip into them again because those colors work really well with this kit. But let's work on this cell. This is part of a 4x6 pocket that's going to include a 3x4 inch flip. So we have to figure out what's going to go inside of the flip. And because it's on the left side of the spread, that means that there are no openings on this side of the page protector. And so I usually prefer to use these snap photo flip plastic page protector things that get adhered onto the outside of the page protector. So that's what I'm doing here. I have a photo that I trimmed down so that I could mount it on this card and have this band of color blocks on the left-hand side of it. I really love doing that with these cards with the color blocks on the side. It's one of my favorite ways to use those cards, and it just adds a little extra to the photo, and it's a little bit more interesting than having everything always just be matted in the predictable way. So that'll be on the outside of this flip. And then on the inside of the flip, it's basically like I ended up having too many photos of the same thing for this month, but I really liked both of these. One of them, I loved the way the sun was coming through the trees and reflecting on my terrace. And the other one I loved because my daughter was in it. So I decided that's why there's a flip here, because I just wanted to use two photos, but I didn't want the same photo to take up too many spaces on my layout. There were actually three here, but I'm deciding to cut one of them. The one with my switch is just too repetitive. So the other one already has a switch and the other one has my laptop in it. So that's a good enough assortment of photos from the scrap room terrace. That's just the little bit of porch that's right outside of my scrap room. So what's going to be in the actual pocket that this flip is going to cover is this piece of vellum. It came in the kit, and then I'm adding one of those Kelly Perky labels to it, and it says, I spend so much time out here every summer. And that's it. I'll just glue that label underneath of the typewritten sentiment that's already on the card, which says thankful for these days. And then that will be fine. This is going to be in a 4x6 pocket. These two 3x4 inch, basically they're both fillers, but one of them has a little flip on top of it. So I just washi taped them together so that they'll fit in the pocket well and hold their space well. So here I have a 4x6 photo that's going to be in the top I guess the left-hand pocket, but on the right-hand side. And I want to combine these two photos. And I guess a unique way of doing that is to use one of these circle embellishments that came in the kit. And I'm just checking out my punches that I have in my stash to see which one is going to fit inside of that circle. I reprinted my second photo, the one of just the washer and dryer, and also the cabinets that live installed. I printed it smaller so that I could punch it out. I just needed to figure out which size punch to use. It turns out I'm going to use this Stampin' Up! Punch that's 1.5 inches, 1.25 inch actually. And that fits quite well. I do want to outline it. So I am just taking a brush point marker here. This is a Faber-Castell brush point black pen. It's a Pitt pen. And I'm just going over the photo over and over again to get it the thickness that I want it to be. And then I'm going to use my Tombow Mono adhesive, the dry run, the tape runner, and not dry run, the tape runner. And I'm just going to nest that almost like a picture-in-picture type of thing. Because I did the bold outlining around the round inset photo, I'm also going to do bold outlining around the outside edges of this photo. It sets the photo apart from some of the other photos in the spread and also ties in with the picture-in-picture kind of inset look that I have going on here. I'm going to glue that right up in the top corner, but not exactly the corner. It's just going to be down a little bit, hanging off the page a little bit and trim off the edge so it still fits in the pocket. And voila, that's a good way to get those two photos in the same space without having quite so many flips, because there's already a couple flips that will be on this page. Now, this is just a little story about how bad my memory is and how I just can't seem to remember to do this simple process when I work from home. I'm supposed to click arrive at the beginning of each of my sessions, and I just never can remember to do it, even though I have this really bright Post-it note that dangles from my from my monitor in a way that definitely is in my line of vision, but I still just forget anyways. So I'm just doing some journaling there about that. And maybe someday I'll be looking back at this and chuckling about either how this is still a problem for me or about chuckling about how it isn't a problem for me anymore. So let's keep our fingers crossed that I somehow managed to master that skill. I'm taking a piece of paper that was already cut. These were Kelly Perky 6x8 cards that came in her kits. And I've already cut this apart for a previous layout somewhere along the way. I would have cut this in half so that it was originally 6x8, then it was 3x8. And I'm just scoring it to make it into a flip. So I have these 6x8 and 3x8 cardstock pieces in my stash, and I just use them for these flips. So because we're now working on the right-hand page, the openings in the pockets are on this side, I'm just adding little tiny magnets to this flip so that I can have them there so that they will keep the flips closed when I mean for them to be closed. Basically, I have so many flips on my pages that every time I open and turn the pages, my Project Life album is flipping and flopping every which way. So I decided to start using some magnets. And what I'll probably do is before the end of the year, I'll go back and add some magnets to some of the flips in the previous months that didn't get them so that it can just be a little bit easier to flip through my pages. So as you see, I just glued the photos to the inside and outside of that flip. And now I have a card here that says August Stories. And I'm doing some journaling here. It says, Steph and Dave got a new kitten this month. Coco is the most adorable little rascal. We dropped by to say hello and meet the new feline she really took to Scott. I underlined that. I did draw the lines ahead of time with my journaling template, and I wrote them in my Sharpie pen, and now I'm just going to erase the pencil markings on this. And then I'm going to, when I erased, I accidentally erased some of my, it wore thin on my journaling, which doesn't usually happen when you use a Sharpie pen. That's one of the things I love about it, is that you can lightly erase and it doesn't make it turn gray. But I must have pressed too hard when I was erasing. I wasn't really paying attention, and I just went over those letters to make them thick again. So now this will go to the top part of this flippity flap. It will also conveniently cover that magnet that's showing. And now we have the magnet sandwiched between those two layers and also sandwiched between those two layers. And it does a really nice job of holding it closed, so it doesn't pop up without me wanting it to pop up. Now, because it's a flip up, I'm going to have to put a little tab on it, but it looks like I haven't thought of that yet. So we'll come back to that whenever it occurs to me that I need it. I'm going to do a really similar presentation on this one. I don't like to have two flaps exactly beside each other, so I'll put another card in between these two. And this is just 3 photos that I have of an award that Scott got for his 10 years of service with Apple. And I'm not actually going to use a card here. This flip is just going to be all 3 spaces on the flip is just going to be the 3 photos. So I have another one of these pre-cut 3 by 4 inch pieces of paper. This one is from patterned paper. It's not cardstock. So it's a little bit less sturdy, but it still works. And then I have the inside is going to look like this. You're going to see the pattern on either side of it for now, but by the time I go to put this in the pocket, I'm going to have to trim it down because it turns out this is actually a little bit bigger than 3 inches wide. I'm going to stick these little magnets in place after the fact because I didn't think of it before the fact. I'm just showing the magnets now. And I'm going to take that photo off so that I can easily figure out where the magnet needs to be positioned. And then I will add that photo back. Let's just make it straight. It's a good thing that I did make it straight because I'm going to have to trim this down, and it being straight makes it a lot easier to just trim off that patterned paper on either side of that. Now here is the flip that is my favorite in the whole spread. So this one is going to be fun. Basically, I want to be able to see the poppy part of this card and also that little golden strip at the top of it from like all of the time. So this is going to be an acetate flip. So it's going to look like basically like a floating flip, maybe we'll call it. That might be a good way to describe it. It's a floating flip. So I am cutting a piece of acetate to 6 by 8. And which again is just twice a 4 by 6. And then I am going to score it down the middle. Now it is hard to score this acetate. It's Lawn Fawn acetate, which is very high quality, very thick acetate for card making. And I had to really force this to get it to fold, but I did eventually get it to fold nice and evenly. Once it's folded, it works okay, but it was a bit of a process. Now, if you are running short on acetate, it doesn't have to be the full size here because I'm actually covering half of it. So it could have been just a little bit of it on the back, and then I could have just glued that little lip to the back side of that 4 by 6 inch card. But for me, I just made it, I'm not lacking in acetate, so I just decided to make it this way. It's a little bit more simple to make it this way. You don't have to figure anything out or anything. So I am measuring the size of this strip. So the strip is just the white part, not the gold part that I want to basically just replicate and make it be like a floating strip on the pocket. And I don't know what I did wrong here, but somehow I did it wrong. So maybe I'll notice. So see, that is not 6 inches. I'm supposed to measure and cut this at 6 inches, but I didn't. I cut it too short. And then I just measured that. I can't remember offhand what the measurement was, but I'm measuring it twice here because my brain doesn't really think in inches. It thinks in centimeters. So I had to just kind of double check and make sure that it was the right size. And I think somewhere along the way I made a mistake and I'm just going to have to recut it. So again, cutting it to 6, and then we'll double check it again and measure it again. And now we have our 2 strips that are cut to exactly the same size as the strip that is on the card itself. And I'm going to be putting, I have 3 Animal Crossing photos. I'm going to be putting one on each strip. So the first one will go on the card itself. And well, it looks like the first one is going on one of the strips. So this is one of my Animal Crossing villagers' houses. And I'm just documenting here. I'm writing, I've been getting back into, and then I'm writing animal and crossing in bigger letters than the rest of my letters. And I'll just show you how I do this. I am basically just writing out animal, and I'm trying to not make each letter get bigger because I usually do that when I'm doing this so that they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I tried to vary the sizes. And then I just, after I write each letter, I just make it be a little bit thicker. And then I add these little bell bottoms onto the bottoms and little flary things on the tops of each of the sticks of the letter. So every place that there's a straight line, I'll add a little flare, and then I'll also just kind of thicken some of the curved lines as well. It's called Jaunty in the book that I used to learn how to do this, and I really like this as my alternate font besides my regular handwriting that I'm using here. So I wrote, so altogether it says, I've been getting back into Animal Crossing and really loving the nostalgic, cozy vibes. And I just added some stars there from the Kelly Perky star chipboard to fill in the gaps where that title just looked a little weird. It had some weird gaps on it. So now this is another villager home that I decorated the yard to. And I'm writing here, decorating each villager's yard slowly, taking my time is a lot of fun. I'm trying to use more color this time, taking the palettes from the villager's theme. So I'm writing that in there, and then I will just also outline, like underline it. So I did use a journaling template there to be able to make those lines pretty straight. And I'm going to outline around the outside edges of the photo. And now finally, here's the photo that will be on the actual card itself. And it is a photo of my residence, like my player's house. That's what I'm trying to say. My Germany-inspired home uses simple panels and other items for its facade. This is the first time I used items like this for my own home. Love the look. So I've used items to make facades in different kind of fake buildings around my island, but I've never done it with my house before. And I'm just explaining to the people on the live stream what I meant by that. I'm going to underline this journaling so it feels like it belongs on the page, and outline the photo so that all of the photos have the same outlined treatment. Now I'm going to glue this 4x6 inch card to the acetate, and basically I'm kind of placing it in the crease and then laying it down. I made a little mistake there where I had to pick it up and move it, but that's okay. And now for this one, oops, I ran out of adhesive, so I just have to do a quick little refill. These are super easy to refill, so it's just a matter of clicking it in place and we're good to go. Now I'm going to adhere this to exactly the spot where the white is on the card that's underneath. Now I'm going to add one of those little tiny magnets, just like that. And then we will sandwich this piece of white cardstock where the other one is. Now I just have that magnet sitting where it naturally sits when it's stuck to the other magnet that you can't see. And then I just have to signify where it's at by circling it with a pen. And now there's that. Just to keep that magnet protected on the back side of that, because that card has to slip into a pocket and then another card will be behind it. I just added a little piece of paper there that I just glued into place to protect the magnet so it didn't get dislodged when I put that card into its pocket in the page protector. Now I have a photo here that's actually not going to have anything else. It's just a 3x4-inch photo that I'm not going to add anything to. I thought about doing some journaling in the sky, but I like the moody look of it, so I'm just going to leave it. And instead of journaling on it, I think what I might do is some journaling on this 4x6-inch card. Or maybe I just won't journal at all about that photo and use this card for other journaling. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, is just letting that photo sit and tell its own story. I thought about cutting these two pieces of the vellum off to say O1 and O2 for the numbers, but I ended up deciding, I mean, that would have been great. I could have done that, but I ended up deciding to use stickers for the 1 and the 2. Just basically going to tell two stories here. And then I'm also going to take the same number stickers and put them elsewhere on the page. I will hopefully move my work around a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. Just as an embellishment, I'm putting this August Moments piece of chipboard from the kit. I'm just stapling it in place on the card. I think that just adds a little bit of interest to this card, which is otherwise just going to be a little bit of journaling here. So I'm going to put one piece of journaling on the white strip and one piece of journaling on the beige strip, I guess it is. And it's happening off screen, but I am putting a little 1 and a little 2 on the actual photos that they refer to. So my journaling here says under the 1, it says, or beside the 1, it says, "We finally replaced our old washer and dryer and got cabinets for above the new ones. Liv installed them for us while Scott was at work." And then the second journaling says, beside the 2, it says Scott received his 10-year service award from Apple. It's a big hunk of metal made from leftover iMac materials. So cool. We're just going to add some underlines to this journaling so that it feels like it belongs on the page. And we're just going to leave it like that. Nothing else needed here. Those letter stickers, by the way, are Ali Edwards digital letter files that I bought. And then I printed them onto sticker paper and used my Brother Scan and Cut to cut them out so that they're little stickers. Now, I am leaving this part in just so that you can see how this page came together and just get a look at it right now before I do the insert. But the footage for the creation of the insert is coming up next. And then the photos for this will be at the very, very end. So this is how this spread looks overall. And now it looks like I'm going to put them in the page too. So that's nice. Every once in a while, I do have to trim down something so that it fits. So I just keep my trimmer handy while I'm putting my cards into the pockets. I find this very satisfying. So every once in a while, I do include the footage just so that you can see how it all comes together. Sometimes I get questions about what I do with these pages and how it looks in the page protectors. I also do occasional flip throughs. So this is me deciding to put a little sticker as a little indicator that there's a flip here. So I just put the sticker on. It's just an Ali Edwards tab sticker. And I wrote the word flip and added an arrow there. And now I'm also deciding that I'm going to have to add some little tabs to these other ones that have flips as well. I found that now that I'm using the magnets, it's not so obvious that there is a flip. So here's the part where I'm going to trim that off. I already told you that I'd be doing it. But I do find that the magnets work so well that sometimes you can't tell that there's something to flip on the page. So it's even more important to include the tabs. So I am going to do that before I move on to doing the insert. So I'll leave that footage in there too, I think, so that you can see that. So this is a punch that I have that just has a basic tab shape to it. And I am going to use some of these extra pieces of vellum that I have in the kit. So here's a 4x6 card that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to use. So I'm going to sacrifice the vellum on it and do 3 punches of that tab shape. So now I have 3 vellum tabs, and I'm going to adhere each one of them to the page using staples. And I'm also going to use these gold stickers. These are word stickers or phrase stickers from the Stories by the Month kit for August. And that looks just great. I love how it looks. This one says press pause because I'm playing Animal Crossing. So I thought that was a fun little phrase to use for a video game. And now I am putting the vellum tabs on the remaining flips on this page. And now I just have to pick some stickers to go with it. Some of these stickers are too long, so I just have to choose phrases that are both relevant to what the topic is, as well as phrases that are short enough to fit on my little tab there. So that one says hanging out, which is cute because the cat is kind of hanging there in Scott's hand. And then the other one says take it in. And I'm not putting stickers on the other side, but before I put these stickers away, I'm just having oops, it looks like I've changed my mind. Whatever I put there, I decided to trim it down, and we'll put it, it ends up being take it in. I don't know what it was before. So here's my template for my insert for this page. And the insert is actually going to come together pretty quickly because there's no interactive pieces to this. It's just going to be cards in pockets. I'm going to use this filler one that has the Macklemore quote, and this side of that insert, the one with the Macklemore quote and then the sunset photos, is going to have this beautiful, I guess, red and purple and pink color scheme to it. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm just typing up some journaling to go on the photo of the motel. Basically, that part in the front foreground of that photo that's all street. I'm going to put some typing on there. So I have basically these 2 different sides to the same template make up one Design A page. So I'm just designing them together like this, even though half of them will be on the back side. Now, when I printed up this photo, it was incredibly pink, a lot more pink than it was. I mean, even the road was purple. So this sunset was very, very dramatic, but it wasn't quite that dramatic. Now, I don't have a filter on the photo itself. I wanted to keep it true because it's actually what things look like. But for some reason, my printer was just printing it up a little bit too reddish, so I had to reprint it there. I actually had to mute the colors a little bit to print it, and look at how it's still very, very vibrant. It almost looks like beet colored, but that is how it really looked. So I'm really pleased that the photo was able to capture the way that it really looked. So I have a couple of other embellishments to just spread around this page. I'm not going to say too much about any of these photos, but I will use a couple of labels and do some journaling you'll see as I go. So I'm just finding some labels. I'm going to put a yellow label right there on the photo of Liv taking a picture of the sunset. And that will be pretty much the front of that add-in. And then where the 08 is, 08 of course for August, I'm going to put vellum. So that one is vellum, and also the Let's Hang Out vellum is going to be right behind it, so that whole, like both things in that pocket are vellum. So that pocket is going to be a little bit see-through, not very, because those 2 vellums are going to layer with each other to make for an even thicker vellum than usual, but you will be able to see some of what's on the card behind when that's sitting on the layout as an insert, and it looks pretty cool. I like it. So really this one is coming together pretty quickly, as you can see. I've got that journaling there, which I printed out onto a piece of paper just to see if it would, like how it was going to fit. Then I printed it onto a sticker. So this is a clear piece of sticker paper, and I'm going to place it in the wrong place. I I wish I placed it right below where the car is parked. So that's my car, the yellow car. Well, Sophie had brought it. It's a camping trip that she took to PEI. Not a camping trip, but like a trip she took to PEI. I don't like that gap right there. So I am actually going to reprint that, but I think it happens off camera. So you'll have to check out the photos at the end to see the difference that makes. It makes quite a big difference. I kept going back and forth. The reason I didn't do it right away, because I was thinking, is it really worth it for me to make that change? But I did make the change, and I'm glad I did, because I do like the difference it makes. Now, my journaling here just says a walk in the city at sunset. It's a picture of Liv taking a picture of the sunset, so I really like that. I'm going to look for something to put in the center of this card with the poppies on it. I really love this floral design, but I want something on the card just to add to it. So some of the embellishments that came in the kit were my first choice, but none of them really work. So I'll go to my stash and try to find something. I like the idea of yellow because it complements some of the other yellow that shows up on this spread. So I'm going to go with this yellow one that says, "Love these stories of right now." And while I'm at it, I just decided to sort these extra pieces of chipboard that didn't get sorted. I just found that sheet after I had already moved all of my chipboard into these little trays. The trays are from IKEA, by the way. So we will position that in the center of that. And now the front of this spread is ready to go. So let's get to work on the back of this spread. So because these two 3x4-inch cards go into a pocket, I'm just gluing them to each other. Not gluing them, but I'm using washi tape to attach them to each other. I'm going to do the same with the top pocket, which is another 6x4-inch pocket, but I'm putting two 3x4s in it instead. My journaling here is right on the photo. It says we found a Chilean empanada shop and immediately called Ellie, who advised what to order. I think we actually might have texted her or something instead of calling her. I can't remember. I'm writing right along the edge of my empanada. I'm writing chicken empanada. Just so that it's clear that those two photos are sort of from the same thing, even though they're in different places. So this is how these are going to look. I am just placing them like that. You'll get to see them at the end here. Thanks so much to my patrons. These are the tiaras who help support this channel and make it all happen. So big thanks to them. And thank you to you also for watching to the end, especially when you watch to the end of these longer videos. It really does help my channel get traction with the algorithm. So thank you so much for that. These are the close-up photos that show how the cards look. This is how that acetate flip looks when it's both closed and flipped up. And then here's the one of the cat when it's closed, and then it's coming. There it is when it's flipped up. That's before I put the little tabs on the edges of those, but you still get to see basically how it looks. And then here's this one. You get to see the number 2 on that as well, because I don't think I showed that in the process video. And there it is flipped up. So thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate. Feel free to leave me a comment if you've got any questions or just want to say anything or interact with me. And I will see you all next time. In the meantime, have a really great scrappy week.